So guys, welcome to the Magic Show. So today I'm going to reveal the Google secret of building beautiful and successful products. So to start with, an introduction from my end. My name is Vishwajit Sande, and I have successfully run 20 plus design sprint for customers across the globe. I built the products which have scaled from like 0 user to 100K users, and I lead the UI UX efforts at Mindbuzzer Info Solutions. Quote by Jake Knapp. So Jake Knapp is the inventor of the design sprint. Spent 10 years at Google and Google Ventures, where he created this design sprint process. So Jake helped build products like Gmail, Google Hangouts, and Microsoft Encarta. So there are a lot of other projects what he has built out for Google, and eventually when he started his own venture, he started building out more products, started helping the designers and the UI UX experts into building products for their customers eventually. So, so the content for this entire webinar is we'll try and understand what is the design sprint. So this is basically for the beginners or the newcomers or few people who want to try and understand that what actually the design sprint is. And then we'll understand the pre-design sprint thing, as in what steps we need to follow for the pre-design sprint, and then the final and the main agenda for the today's webinar, that is the entire design sprint process. Of course, design sprint is something which is done over a period of time, but at least in this webinar, we'll try and get the idea about how it is done, what is the process to be followed, who needs to do it, what are we going to achieve at the end of it, and so on. There could be a lot of questions. So in the meantime, while I walk through my presentation, talk about the things, if you feel that there are any questions, you can just directly Q&A session, Q&A section, and I'll try to answer most of them towards the end of this webinar. So what is a design sprint? So design sprint is actually a framework for teams, and here it doesn't matter what's your team size. Like it could be a team of, let's say, 2 to 3 people, or let's say a team of 100 people. But eventually, the goal of this design sprint is to come together, then brainstorm and solve and test a design related problem. So design sprints actually follow a process where, let's say, there are some business goals, some user specific goals, and then what are the problems they are facing. And then throughout the process of designing, prototyping, and testing ideas with the customers, eventually we are solving the problems of like what were your basic business problems. So that will be solving in the design sprint. So very important note here is for everyone, because usually people have this question whether say new customer or someone a new entrepreneur talks to me about the design process. They have a very basic question is, does this design sprint suit me, or should I really run it? Who should do it? And so design sprints are useful in every stage of the product. I have run design sprint for the few products which were in the initial stage, as in the 10 or 20% of the business goal was achieved with it. And eventually, I've also did a design sprint of where the product was into a pre-release stage. So they had just done the beta, and we again did the design sprint where we found out a lot of things could have gone wrong eventually if the product would have been launched. So like basically this design sprint process is for every, it could be like at the start of the project, at the start, if you are at the mid, if you are towards the end, or if you want to build a new feature into it. So basically at any stage. So there is some pre-design sprint process to be done, and that eventually helps you try and understand that what things are to be done, and that is the competitor analysis stands out the most as a most important factor here. So the relative strengths and weaknesses. So why we do competitor analysis is try to find out the assessment of the relative strengths and weaknesses. When you start comparing the competitors' features, you start understanding if the features you are trying to build are good as the competitor, or even better than the competitor. So if they're just good, then you have to ask a question to yourself, as in, why would some user switch from the competitor to my app, my website, or my product unless I'm offering something different? So assessment of this relative strength and weakness as in comparison with the competitor is very, very important thing. Then the second one is spotting the market gap. So competitor analysis also can allow you to identify a gap in the market. It can let you recognize the products or the services which are presently offered by some of your competitors, or if the offered products are having not fulfilling the actual problem of the user. So if that is the case, we can have this from the competitor analysis, we can have this entire analysis done to identify what's the exact gap, the market gap happening. Then learning from the competitor's mistake. Again, one of the very important thing to do, why to do competitor analysis, is learning from the competitor's mistake, because finding their errors, mistakes, and negative consumer feedback is very, very important. Your competitor is someone who has built that product way ahead of time, maybe way ahead of when you started building it out. So learning from someone else's mistakes is always the best learning to do. So that can help you do the things in a better way. That can help you understand why the things failed. That can also help you understand how you can improve and bring out a better product or a solution into the market. So the starting step for the pre-design sprint process is the competitor analysis. Once we are done with the competitor analysis, so maybe I can just show you an example of competitor analysis as well. Yeah. So I was just doing a design sprint for one of the customers, and where I found out some other competitors, and based on the features, based on the usability part, so I did the entire research of the competitors, found out a lot of things into it, which eventually helped. And when we launched the final product, that was really, really helpful. And in fact, the customer was able to acquire some early stage users from the competitor, who were the users of the computer. So that was a very good exercise for us as well. So moving on to the user persona. So what are the user personas? So user persona is nothing but the fictitious model of the sample users of a product or a service. So where are these user personas created from? So they are actually created from a real world understanding of the user they represent. So personas actually help focus on the efforts, on the core characteristics of the end user, and design the best possible solution for them. So again, having the understanding of the user or the end user who is going to use this product is very important, because your product or a service is going to be sold to this end customer, and unless and until you have the understanding of them, what exactly are their pain points, what are they trying to solve, what are they trying to achieve out of this product. So unless and until you as the stakeholders of the product have an understanding of this, it is really difficult to build a very good product which is going to fulfill most of the needs. So the advantage of user persona is also they help to decide which features to prioritize, include, or exclude in the product. And then the most effective design sprint process typically identifies one or top two personas, and then we build a product around it. Again, there is no thumb rule or a book rule for how many user personas you can have, but usually it's a good practice to start small, start with one or two user personas, and eventually you can solve one problem and move to the other personas or the other problem. So this is one example of a user persona. When I did one a fitness training app, so this was the user personas, where I tried to find out what are the characteristics, what are the motivations, what are the pain points, and also are they really tech savvy? Because eventually I was building a fitness training application, so their tech savviness was also important. Then This user persona also is an important factor during the entire design sprint because uh, the A's or all of the motives or the technology access, these become important in your design, in the final designs, what you are going to create or the prototype, what you're going to create. Because this is going to map back to are we really solving the main problems of that user. So let's get the ball rolling with the design sprint. So the design sprint actually happens from like it's a 5 days process, which will be starting on Monday and ending on Friday. So the so usually what we do is you actually map on Monday, you sketch on Tuesday, then you decide and storyboard on Wednesday, you prototype on Thursday, and you test on Friday. So you have got the experts in from the Monday to Wednesday at the very least, but ideally for the whole week, as you will need some of them for prototyping day as well. So it's always better to have your full team throughout the week. But sometimes these stakeholders are actually like busy with their day-to-day things, with their business activities, and so on. But it is very important for them to be present from Monday to Wednesday. So throughout this process, a dedicated team discusses a challenge, then they design potential solutions and test them with the real users. So it's like you start with something vague and finish with real feedback and something extremely tangible in just 5 days. So imagine you working on an idea through the last 6 months, and the deciding factor could be this 5 days. So a very important thing because like problem with this like the entire process again what I said, the availability of senior stakeholders for the entire 5 days process could be a hindrance, but just the 3 days are more than sufficient. And when I walk you through the 5 days process, what we follow, it would be very important. And you would also understand why I'm saying that these 3 days are very important. Okay, so what should be the team? So the team, like again, this is just a specimen team, but very important people here is uh, to start with, you should have the product manager or someone who has actually was present during the ideation phase of this your idea or a product, because that person would give you the exact story behind it. He could give you more inputs to the entire team. You can have your engineers, your ops manager, and you and from my team usually it's like a facilitator, like that's usually me who takes care of the things. Then I have a designer and then a decider. Like this decider is someone who plays a very crucial role. So like in the next few minutes we'll see what's the role of a decider and why it is very important. So the Monday, the first step, what we start is the math stage. So Monday is all about math. So we start off with setting a long-term goal. At the start of the sprint, you need to set a long-term goal because this should serve as a beacon of light to keep everyone moving in the same direction. So what's a long-term goal? So to put it in simple words, is it's nothing but a question which answers like why are we doing this project? Or it could be another question which says that where do we want to be in 6 months or a year or 5 years from now? And these are the small questions, but the answer to them could be a long term goal. And it is very important at the start of Monday, the first thing you do is set a long term goal for the entire team. And this team is team of stakeholders, team of anyone who is going to be involved throughout this entire design sprint process. So once the goal is established, it is important to ask the team or the stakeholders in our case about what they think are the obstacles in achieving the goals. And so usually when I ask these questions, I get a bit pessimistic here. I ask, how could we feel? And so usually so these questions are something which my intention here is to turn these fears into questions. And because at the end of end of the week, I usually try and make sure that I answer all the questions what were listed down during the sprint question. So it is very, very important to have the sprint questions in place. So usually these are the fears or the obstacles the stakeholders feel, which will eventually hold them back from achieving the sprint goal. So once the sprint, so again, this is a good example of a goal. So in 2 years' time, we will be an essential weekly laundry service, more convenient than owning a machine at home. So this could be the end goal where we have put a time frame of 2 years, then what we are going to achieve, and so on. And the questions could be: can we make it clear that we are not just useful for shirts and suits? So this could be a fear that this is a laundry service for the entire uh, whatever clothes you wear. It's not just about that. It could be laundry service for your maybe some clothes at your home and so on. So this goal and the sprint questions are important. Once we have set the goals, once we have the sprint questions in place, we try to put it in a map. So how it is mapped is towards the left we have the key players, and towards the right we place the what is our end goal, and then in between we start putting out few steps, and these few steps usually are 5 to 15 steps. So I'll just show you one example. So so in this case, the users are the patient, doctor, and the coordinator. And the end goal here, like the end goal here is the beginning the therapy. So there are some steps in between, let's say that is like making an appointment, then discussing the trial, and then enroll, and then eventually begin the therapy. So while making a map, again, just to revise, towards the left, we are going to have all the users, and towards the right, we are going to have the end goal, and we are going to fill it in between 5 to 15 steps. Very important thing is asking the experts. So these experts on your design sprint and or guests from outside are to be interviewed. So usually what I do is I aim for 15 to 30 minutes each. And so my questions are usually around why, trying to understand the why behind it, why we are building this product, why we are uh, choosing or opting to solve this particular solution or this particular problem or n number of other problems what we have. So the end goal here is to try to know how things work, what did not work for them before, then the experience with the customers, if a customer research has been done in the past, and so on. So if required, based on the answers from the expert, we can go back and change the map as well. So we are pretty much flexible throughout this entire Monday. So one interesting exercise which I really like, and that is HMV, how might we? So HMV exercise is where the sticky notes are distributed to the entire team, and they write some questions on the sticky note. So one question on a single sticky note, which starts with HMV. So it could be it could be like how might we like want the users to stay on the platform for a longer period of time. So it could be just any question which might start with how might. And here again, it is important that what we can do is we can reframe the problems as opportunities here. So one example of how might we, so how might we encourage users to use our app when traveling? This could be one, or it could be how might we provide customer support faster? So I mean, like pretty much very like distinct questions here, but it is again a thought process from a stakeholder's point of view. So each and every question is important here. So once we have the how might we questions in place, what we do is we organize and vote them. So to do that, we put all of them how might be questions in order on a wall or a whiteboard, and then we try to move the similar ideas next to each other. Because again, remember we had set a sprint goal, we had discussed some questions, and eventually this team is like a group of people who have the have the motivation to solve a problem. So most of the ideas or most of the questions they are going to share are going to be somewhat similar. So grouping them together, trying to find the common elements out of it is important. And then once that's done, usually we distribute the dot stickers to them. So I'll show you the images so it become much more clear to you. So these dot stickers are used for voting. So once we have the sticky notes in place, everyone can like go and vote on a particular note, and we can find a winner note. So these winner notes are very, very important because these winner notes are going to be eventually moving into a stage where they go into prototyping. So again, very important factor here. But before we do that, we also pick a target. So I will just quickly go and show the screen to you. So basically, we started off by having some map. So if you see, we have a map in place where the main players are on the left. Then we also did have the end goal and mapped out some steps here. Then we also had some HMV questions. So what we did, so what we usually in the picker target set is we stick the HMV questions which are related to the features or the steps throughout this mapping thing, and then we vote on it. So if you see, there are some dot stickers here, and those are the votes for the particular note. And based on all of this, we try to find out an area which is very, very important and just circle it out. And that's the target. So this picking a target is very important part because that is going to be our focus throughout the entire 5 days. And again, throughout the mapping or the entire process, there could be more than one target, but always we usually should pick up one target as a basic problem we are going to solve, and the sub problems usually get solved while you solve the basic problem. So that's at the end of Monday. So we'll quickly summarize what we did throughout Monday. So when we started off Monday, we set a long-term goal. Then we listed out the sprint questions, which were basically the fears of the stakeholders. Then we made a map out of it where we had the main players on the left, the end goal on the right, and then we had some 5 to 15 steps rolled out in between. Once we did the map, we asked the expert about like what are the problems, why they want to build it out, and so on. Then we did the HMW exercise where we collected some questions from the stakeholders. Then we organized them and voted on them, and eventually we picked a target. So at the end of Monday, you have a target in place, and you should be excited for Tuesday. So Tuesday is nothing but a sketch day. So this is a very fresh day, a new day where the team is going to actually sketch out the things. So for sketching out these things, we start off with a recap from Monday. And that is important because on Monday, the entire stakeholder team has gone through a lot of information. There were a lot of questions raised, there were a lot of answers, there were a lot of ideas, there were a lot of suggestions done. And that was actually a mess. So it is important that the facilitator usually comes and gives a recap of Monday. Once that recap is done, the facilitator also does a lightning demos. So for doing the lightning demos, usually all the ideas are put out on a whiteboard. So remember we had picked a target, right? So usually at the start of the lightning demos, it's a team of the designer who does create some ideas based on the target what we had picked. And these ideas are pretty much random. They could be some features picked out from the existing apps, competitor apps, and so on. Again, the purpose of lightning demos is just for the users or just for the stakeholders to have a view of the idea, how it is going to shape up eventually. Let's try and understand here that this lightning demo screen or what you see on the screen currently is nothing but just some random examples. They might or they might not be eventually present in our final product. These are just to get the ball rolling. Once the lightning demos are done, we start with the sketch. So this sketch is divided into 4 parts. So one is the notes, the second is the ideas, third is the crazy eight, which is my favorite, and the fourth is the solution. So let's start with notes. So in order to have this notes session started, so we usually distribute A4 size papers to everyone on the team. They walk around the entire room for 20 minutes, look at yesterday's ideas what were discussed. They also look at the lightning demo screen, and so basically they are going through all the information whatever is possible in that room and trying to take out their own notes. Important factor is they shouldn't be discussing with each other. These notes should be entirely dependent on their own perception about the information what we have. Then we moving to the second part, which is the ideas. So during the ideas phase, the participants are going to choose a few of the points they have noted down, which they found interesting, and then turn them into something more tangible. So it actually doesn't need to be something very beautiful, but the idea here is to have something bit more tangible. And this is a 20-minute exercise, which could look something like this. So if you see this image, like these are just the ideas based on the information or based on the notes they have taken. It is not at all beautiful, but it tries to convey the information. This is important for the person who is eventually going to sketch. And then comes my favorite part, which is the crazy eights. So based on the notes taken, based on some ideas what they had sketched out, they are going to create some crazy eights. So crazy eights is nothing but you take a A4 size paper and you fold it 3 times in columns and one time in the rows to make like 8 boxes out of it. And so basically something like this. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 8 boxes out of it. And eventually the goal here is you have to draw 8 possible solutions in 8 minutes. So basically there is one person who keeps tab of time. You get started. There is a start. You start drawing out one solution. At the end of 1 minute, no matter whether you have finished this design or not, you move to the next box. It's like in 8 minutes, we come to a point where you have 8 different solutions for one problem what you were focusing on or discussing, and that makes it crazy eight. And it's really interesting. And me as a facilitator, I really enjoy this because the stakeholders try to come up with many ideas. So it's like I usually become overwhelmed with so many ideas on the table. So once the crazy eight is done, the final phase here is sketching. And with the help of the notes, ideas, and the crazy eight, one has to form a final solution out of it. So this is a 2 to 3 step process where we need to make everyone at the end of the sketch part, everyone needs to understand what's done, what's not done, and so on. So once the solution sketches are done, again, this is something where there might be a team collaboration, but that's completely fine. The solution sketches might look something like this. Try and understand what we are doing. As I said before, the solution sketch is something which we are just doing an exercise where we might write notes, we might create some ideas around it. The end goal here is try and make the solution much more understandable to the entire team. So this is not a sketch, this is a solution sketch. So our focus here is more on the solution rather than on the sketch. So if you see here, there are a lot of notes written. There is hardly some diagram drawn, but there are a lot of notes written here. There are some post-its trying to explain what eventually this is going to look like, or what it should what the outcome should be. So we have done with the solution sketch. So this is an important step from the stakeholders' point of view, that is recruit for testing. So on Friday, if you remember the earlier map, on Friday we are having some prototype testing to be done. So for that, it is important that on Tuesday you recruit those testers. So these testers could be recruited with the help of the stakeholders, of course, because they know the users well. And if you remember, we had also done a pre-sprint exercise where we created the user persona. So these testers could be some people who are overlapping with the user personas. So we try and match as much as possible. So we are at the end of Tuesday, where we started off with a recap from Monday. We did the lightning demos, if you remember, where I'd shown you image where the solutions were stick on the wall. We did some notes. Uh, then we had some ideas which were sketched out. We did the crazy eight, which was really an interesting exercise. Then we did some solution sketch, and eventually we recruited for testing. So let's move to Wednesday now. And Wednesday is nothing but where we are going to decide and storyboard the thing. So like Tuesday, on Wednesday as well, we'll start off by recap from Tuesday. Then we have this art. So remember, we had some solution sketches on Tuesday end of the day, and those are now going to be sticked and they form the art museum. If you see, the entire process here is we had different solutions sticking on a wall, and everyone can look at them. So the important part here is once we have the solutions in place, we now need to narrow down on it in order to storyboard the things. So it can't be like there are 50 solutions coming out of Tuesday. So we definitely need to narrow down on 3 or 4 solutions. So how we do that is we start off by creating a heat map. So each and every team member is given 3 dot stickers. They walk around the room. Again, this is an exercise to be done individually. There shouldn't be any discussion within the team members here. So 3 dot stickers are given to each and every team member. They walk around and they stick the stickers onto any of the solutions they like. So for example, if you see there are some blue stickers, we have like the users have stuck here. And so possibly this is an individual opinion. It doesn't need to have any kind of a discussion. There might be where few people have not got the idea correct or they stick. So that's why the majority of the stickers are important, that where the majority of the stickers go. And an individual doesn't have a compulsion to stick the 3 stickers at 3 different places. They can always stick them at one place as well. Why it is important is if I was a stakeholder, I must have put my opinion or a speaker based on my like own views about the solution sketch. But if we are discussing it as a team, let's say 3 minutes each sketch, then there could be more inputs or more ideas that can float, and I might have a different thought process. So once that is done, once the speed critic is done, there is an important step, that is straw poll. So what happens in straw poll is it is somewhat similar to the heat map stage, but the only difference here is each member now gets a bit bigger sticker, a bit larger sticker in size, and all of them are given the stickers, and they need to go to the solution sketches and like stick that stickers to the solution sketch all at once. So everyone has to do it at once. Why we are doing it is based on the like speed critic reviews, whatever we discussed as a team. Now there shouldn't be any bias, so that's why everyone needs to be sticking those stickers all at once. Usually, what happens is when these last stickers are sticked, it becomes difficult to go ahead and drill down on the final solution sketches. Because as I said earlier, it could be 50 sketches. Now we drilled it down with the heat map to 10 sketches. But even now, it is important to choose 2 to 3 sketches out of it. And that is why the decider, if you remember, there was one role during the team I had shown that there was one decider, and why is important, because that decider has the power of super vote. So the decider gets three votes, and they can go ahead and stick them. So usually uh, the decider gets a different color vote and have their initials written on it, and they choose three different solutions. For example, if you see this 1, 2, and 3, they have this green dot sticker, and they have now chosen three solution sketches. So this super vote is important. Yeah. So the next part is all in one Rumble. So again, we had now come to a point where we had the solution sketches in place. So we can now start placing them near to each other and try to find out similarities. As in, can we combine two solution sketches to solve a problem? Can we put together 4 or 5 sketches together and come to a single solution out of it? So this is either all in one, or it's called as a rumble. Again, a very interesting step, because there are a lot of ideas floating here how we can combine 2 3 solutions. Then it's an like a small step, and I will explain this one with the diagram itself, where we are just drawing a grid. So usually it's like 5 boxes in a row and three in a column. And like again, there is no limitation on how many boxes we need to have, but we are just drawing a grid out of it. And why we are doing it is because with the grid we are going to have some kind of opening and a closing scene. So I'm going to explain this part with an example itself. So usually, so this is a grid, let's say we can draw, and there is an opening statement for a grid and the closing statement. So this opening statement usually can be like your goal or a starting step what the user needs to take, and the closing statement uh, could be what is the end goal you're going to achieve. So again, the closing statement usually is an answer to the sprint questions what we had created on Monday. So in order to have the opening and the closing scene, you can go back, refer to the map, you can refer to the long-term goals, you can go and refer to the sprint questions and so on. It is important that you write each and everything for the opening and the closing statement. And then throughout, you are going to fill the storyboard. So this again, how it is different from the map is, in case of map, if you remember, you had a user and you also had the end goal and you were filling in the steps. In case of the storyboard, you have the opening scene and the closing scene, and now you are creating some small steps in between. So what actually the user is going to do throughout this journey from the opening scene to the closing scene, and that is entirely filled out in a storyboard. So storyboard concept usually you must have heard in video processing, where they write down each and every scene, and that is exactly what we are doing here, the starting scene to the end scene. So that was a wrap on Wednesday, where we did a on Tuesday we had an art museum. Then we did a heat map where we stick these small dot stickers individually. Then we did a speed grid, where we discussed the each solution sketch in brief for 3 minutes each. We did a straw poll where all the stickers were stuck to the solution sketches all at once. Then we did a super vote where the decider played a very important role and tried to uh, like bring down the entire solution number to let's say 2 or 3 solution sketches. And then we did the storyboard where we had the opening and closing scenes, and the rest all was filled with the what steps the user is going to do in order to have that user journey. So that was the wrap on Wednesday. Moving to Thursday. So this is the day when all your efforts from last 3 days are going to turn into reality. So the ideas, the sprint questions, the long-term goal, the solution sketches, etc., is going to turn out into a reality now. Important factor for Thursday is having a prototype mindset. So what do you mean by prototype mindset? Is nothing but you should have the belief, or you should believe in your team, that no matter what, how complex the problem is, we are going to create a prototype out of it. So your determination of the entire team is very important here. May the problem be very complex, we will still figure out some kind of a solution out of it and prototype it. So that mindset is important. Once your entire mindset is ready, then we need to try and understand that the goal here for prototyping is nothing to build but to build a realistic facade. So something which is very close to how your end product is going to look like, or your end solution is going to be, and you're going to because you're going to record the actual reaction of the users on Friday. So this is the important part. How we do it is to start with, you're going to pick the right tool. See, this entire prototyping exercise is just to create the solution sketches into something more tangible. So picking the right tools is important. It doesn't matter whether you use like Figma, InVision, or let's say you use Photoshop or any other designing tool. The tool is the tool is not important, but picking up the right tool is important here, because the turnaround time here is like very less. So like here are a few of the example tools what I have used before. I have most of the times I go with Figma, but other times I sometimes use XD. I also use like Keynote a lot of times, or sometimes even Sketch. Again, I'll tell you why it is important, because we're going to divide and conquer. See, try and understand that we just have one day to prototype. So 7 to 8 hours, your entire team is going to be divided into two, three, like various roles. And why you need a tool, to choose a tool which is handy, because your entire team is going to use these tools to work. Maybe there are some different roles, as I said. The role could be a writer, there could be one asset collector, there could be one stitcher, there could be one interviewer. And these people are going to create and bring in some inputs. And the stitcher is going to actually, the stitcher, or we can call that person as a designer, is going to actually put them into something more tangible thing. So having 2, 3 people on team who are well acquainted with these tools is important. So usually the prototype is something which looks like this. This could be like most of the times I try to build out a prototype which would be more similar to your final product. So it's usually with the real content and somewhat more close to the final product. Because my intention here is try to get the tester's perspective, as what could be the shortcomings for them to use this final product. So I usually go with a high fidelity prototype. And then we do a trial run, of course, because as you already know, we are sitting on Thursday, where on Friday we are going to do some test runs. Like we are going to have some testers. So in order to show that prototype to them, we need to do a trial run with the entire team. So again, the facilitator plays an important role here, where they walk through each and every prototype screen through the entire team. And if there are any things to be changed, the team can quickly do it on Thursday evening itself, because on Friday you need to be ready with the things. Remember when we did the divide and conquer, there was one role of an interviewer. So that interviewer creates a script out of it and sends out some reminders to the testers who are eventually going to come in on Friday. So that was a wrap on Thursday. What we did, I'll just give you a recap of it. So we started off by deciding like what is the prototyping mindset. We decided that okay, no matter what, we are not going to fail here. We are not going to stop. May that be any complex problem, we are still going to come up with a prototype for it. Our focus was here to build a facade out of it. For that, we picked up the right tools, because of course, the divide and conquer is an important factor where everyone was doing everything. So picking up the right tools became important. Based on that, we created the prototypes and we did a trial run for the entire stakeholder team. And at the end, it was like an interview script and was created, and the reminders were set, where the team of interviewers was all set for Friday. Let's go and see what happens on Friday. So Friday is the actual test day. where there are going to be a lot of things happening throughout this day. So you should be ready with what it takes. So usually a setup, I usually when do these kind of design sprints in person, or like mostly at our office. So we set up two different rooms here. One room is for the facilitators, for them to like interview the actual end tester, and the other room is usually used for the entire team, where they see in action how the entire interview process is going to happen. So there could be some camera setup in one room where the interviews are going to be taking place. And there are some small tweaks to be done. So for example, if you are showing a prototype on an iPad or a phone, you can just place it on a flat surface and have a camera setup. So we can capture the real interactions of the testers. And the team sitting in the other room is going to take some notes based on what they observe from the videos, what they are seeing from the other room. So once the setup is done, so there is this 5-act interview. It starts off with a friendly welcome. See, again, try and understand that this testers, we need a very genuine and a very accurate feedback from them. So they need to be like they need to feel like they are at home. They are trying it out as an end customer and so on. They shouldn't have that specific interview pressure. So the role of interviewer here is important to give them some friendly welcome and start off with asking some context questions. So these could be some open-ended questions, but gradually, like they are going to move towards the script of the interview, what we had created on Thursday. So moving on, the interviewer does a quick introduction of the prototype. They try and explain. They try and explain to the testers why their role is important for this interview and how this prototype is going to work. They also try and tell them that there are a lot of places where the actual functionality will not work, but they can still try out how the product is going to look like. The expectation here is asking the testers to think out loud. If possible, they can just keep on talking while they are interacting. Maybe they might, for example, just they can look at the screen and say that, oh, this button looks so small, and I couldn't tap on it. So something like that. Just having that kind of a commentary going on, or at least they are thinking out loud. So that would give more inputs to the team sitting in the other room. During this entire course, there might be a lot of places where uh, testers do not talk. They do not actually explain what they are going through while looking at the prototype. So what the interviewer does is they keep on nudging them, asking them some small questions, or like asking them a few things to do, try out some other options just to get their feedback or reviews on it. Once that's done, like what the interviewer does is they ask the tester some questions and try to summarize the feedback. Again, the debrief process is important because these are mostly some open-ended questions asked, and they usually happen at the end of when they have tried the prototype. So there might be few things which they didn't realize when they were actually trying the prototype, and at the end, now when they sit back and relax, they understand, okay, this could be better, this I couldn't understand, and so on. So this debrief process is important, and at the end of the debrief process, the interviewer actually thanks the uh, testers for their time. They might give out some gifts and so on. So what does the rest of the team do throughout this process? As I said, they are taking notes. So they usually put out their notes into 5 columns. So each column could be for one tester. So usually 5 is a good number to run the test through them, and they put out their own notes from it. So based on the notes what were taken throughout the entire interview process, the team looks for patterns. So these patterns could be what are the common feedback what we got, and they try to put them together. And see, many of the times, what happens is, like based on the patterns or the feedback, we try to understand. Like we come to know that there are a lot of feedback that cannot be incorporated at this time. That is something which could be for the future. There are few things which need to be tweaked. So that is something we do it during the wrap up phase and make a plan out of it. So this plan actually happens in two ways. So one plan is an immediate plan where, as I said, like we incorporate the feedback. The team can like take some next week's time and then put together the feedback and have a prototype again ready, and we can like test it out again. And then the other plan is make some long-term goals, which eventually could be built out in phase one, phase two, phase three of the product, and so on. So this planning stage is important, where we can have a follow sprint. So usually, like not all of the things get covered into a single sprint of 5 days. There could be some sub questions which we need to answer. That would be a follow sprint. So follow up sprints are never 5 days long. They're usually shorter in time because we can easily skip day one and two and start from day three, four, and five. Uh, so they are usually 2 to 3 days long. And again, for follow sprints, you do not need all the stakeholders. The senior stakeholders could be there, or they can easily skip it out. And that's a summary on the Friday where we started out by setting up this setup. We did the 5 act interview. We did like I explained you the 5 steps where what the actual interviewer was going to do and what the testers were supposedly giving the feedback. Based on that, we looked out for the patterns and we created like our wrap up story out of it, what should be done, and in long term what should be done in a quicker ways. That was created to make a plan, and that was Friday. So from the last 5 days, we were at a stage where we set up a goal, and now eventually we have something more tangible, and that's how a sprint uh, time is achieved. So this is a quick shout out for our sponsor, that is CodeGrip. So CodeGrip is an automated code review tool. You can get a 1 month free trial for it. You can just drop an email to team@codegrip.tech, and someone from the team will get back to you with the trial code and everything. So this is out of like I've been doing design sprints for last 3 to 4 years, and this is one of my biggest learning. That is, every design sprint is successful. You either end up with a perfect prototype of your product or with a sigh of relief that you failed earlier rather than building a product like a final product out of it. So after this, I am going to open up for Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, you can just type it out. If your microphones are, you can unmute your microphones. You can ask the questions as well. And if you want to get in touch with me, these are my my LinkedIn, my email, and a direct phone number if you want to call. So I'm now opening it up for question and answer. So if anyone has any questions, you can just type it out again in the Q&A section. So I'm going to wait for a couple of more minutes. Okay, so I have one question here, and the question is, what tool did you prefer for sketching? So I think this question is more for prototyping rather than sketching, because sketching is usually done on pen and paper. If you see, like our sketching process was on pen and paper, but for prototyping, I usually go with Figma. It is very easy to use. Personally, I prefer that, but you can go with any tool. Like it could be just a keynote as well. The end goal there is trying to explain the solution to the end tester. So that is important. That is important there. So tool, again, coming back to the thing where I said like tool isn't the deciding factor. It's more of if you are able to work faster in any tool, that should be fine. Okay, so there is one question where can you repeat the 1 month trial offer? Okay, so this is a question I think you can directly shoot out to team at codegrip.tech. They should be able to like help you with that. Okay. There is one question, interesting question with where the question is, we can say that design sprint, this process is a proper requirement gathering exercise, correct? Okay. So half of the part is correct here, that initial part is requirement gathering, because if you see the stakeholders, we started off with the problem statement and so on. So the requirements were pretty much clear to the stakeholders, but uh, there might be some ideas or some things where we eventually we were finding a solution to it. So the problems were defined, we were just finding a solution out of it. So the requirement gathering could be the problems which were defined, but the pre process was definitely something which was requirement gathering. So that's why, as I said, like, this is half correct. But design sprint is usually something more than a requirement gathering. It is solution oriented. At the end of it, you come up with something much more substantial than what happens usually in the requirement gathering phase, where we are just documenting things. This is more from a design perspective. I hope I answered your question. Okay. So this is an interesting question. So the question is, often doesn't the prototype phase require more time? Does the engineer often require more clarification from the team? Okay, so nice question. So as I said before, this design sprint process, we just focused on the main business goal, and then we solved one problem. But as I said, during the planning phase, we also discussed about uh, having some shorter design sprint, like a shorter cycle after the main design sprint. And that could be the phase where we go into a bit of detailing. That detailing could be so again, we can do this design sprint for 5 days, we can do it for 30 days. It really doesn't matter, because eventually the end goal is, out of it we should come to a tangible thing which is workable prototype, and that is going to be built out. So why I said 5 days is, we are where we the focus was more on solving the business problem. But in case of you have an engineering team who is going to pick it up from there, of course there needs a follow-up sprint which would be detailing out this prototype screen. Because I like during this design sprint process, I would have just created the user shopping experience, let's say, uh, the time from when the user comes on the dashboard screen or the main home landing screen of the application for a shopping website, to the time when they put the product into the cart. Let's say in the design sprint, we simplified this process, but still there is a need for a follow sprint to try and build out the screens for what happens prior to coming to the landing screen, or what happens after the user comes to the cart screen, and so on. So of course that needs some clarification, but that is usually done in the follow-up sprint. Yes. Okay. So nice question. I actually had answered this at the start, but I'll still answer it again. The question is, should design sprint be compulsory for every new product development? The short answer to this is yes. The a bit longer answer is yes, that's very, very important. And the only reason being, because it actually gives you a confirmation that whether your idea is going to eventually work. So it's like the cheapest way of testing your idea, I would say. Because if you're going to build out an idea, what you were maybe going through and since last 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and eventually build a product out of it. So there are a lot of development cost and time and efforts required for it. But in case of design sprint, you can fail early, you can fail easily, you can fail with less money. So that's what I would say, and I'll strongly recommend to start any new product with the design sprint. Okay. Interesting question. How do you conduct this process as a remote process? How effective it is versus having an in-person session? And what tools do you use to conduct this as a remote process? Okay. So there are three questions here. One is how do you conduct this process as a remote process? Yes. So in case of remote process, usually like the stakeholders are not required for entire 8 hours per day for first 3 days. This remote process usually happens for more than 5 days. The reason being, we set the what usually I do in the remote process is I usually set an initial call where I do the pre-sprint process based on some document from the customer. The second thing what I do is I usually go through a lot of details there because usually I have sorry. So I go through the documents shared by the client prior to the initial design sprint call or the map day, as we say. During that call, it's an extensive call for 3 to 4 hours, and we and my team ask a lot of questions there, which are trying to understand the why behind the product idea, how they want to build it, what were the problems they were facing. Usually, it is better to have all the stakeholders on that call. Based on that, we come up with the next few steps where the stakeholders are not required in that case if they are busy. Again, we are trying to solve the same problem with a remote process, so there are few things which might overlap on a similar day, or few things which we do offline and then again connect back with the team. But of course, for that we use some tools. I usually do some flows and everything using the tool called as Miro board. So Miro is the tool name. So I use Miro board for like quickly prototyping the things, as in like quickly sketching out the things, because here there is no pen and paper, but Miro board has some ready to use boxes, circles, and so on, which I can use to create some kind of a small sketch out of it. And eventually, this Miro board, I can give the access to the entire team of stakeholders, so everyone can work in parallel, and we are looking at the same thing. So how you must have seen in the photos that there were some photos where we were sticking the solutions on a whiteboard or on a wall, but the same thing Miro board does it. So I answered the questions of how it is done in the remote process and what tools do I use. There's one more question is how effective it is versus to an in-person session. So the answer to this question lies into the fact that how is a Zoom meeting effective as compared to a meeting in person. So it's the answer is almost similar. That in-person meetings are always good. You get to know a lot of things, of course. But like when we are currently at this stage of pandemic, so remote processes also work. Like these Zoom calls also work. Okay, so can you redisplay the code grip trial offer slide? Okay, I will. Yes, here is the slide. I'll just put it up and I'll move to the next question. Okay. So the question is like, did you say mirror board? No, it is Miro, Miro, Miro. And like there are boards under it, so that's why I called it as Miro board, but it is Miro, Miro. Okay, so nice question. So the next question is any market research regarding the product is conducted during the process? If yes, then how do you carry out the market research before the design sprint and after the launch of the product? Okay. So these are, so again, two questions here. So is the market research done regarding the product during the process? Yes, it's done. As I said, like we do a competitor research here more than a market research. So that is done prior to it, and usually that contains two steps. If we as a team sit like in a geographical area where the end customer is, then we go with having some kind of customer interviews, and that becomes very crucial and important for the competitor research. The second part of it is there is a lot of desk research done here, because how desk research is important is we get to know the competitor, their feedback, their customer feedback. Then we sometimes also approach the customers of competitors if they are ready to speak with us, and that is the way how we do the competitor research. So yes, so there was one like sub question to it is, do you do that after the product? So after the product, that is something which is usually done by the customer. We actually do not do it, but if it is required, we again can do the final product interviews with the customer and try and map it with the initial interviews and the initial goals set to try and understand if how successful was the design sprint. Hope. Okay, guys. So I think we are like way past our time. So what you can do, I'll quickly put out this again. So these are my contact details. So if in case you have any further questions, you can drop me a mail on wish.s@mindbuzzer.com, or you can connect with me over LinkedIn and drop me an email, like a message there, or you can just directly call on this phone number and ask for me. And I would be really happy and excited to like get your feedback about this webinar, as well as if you have any ideas to discuss, I would be more than happy to help you out with it. Yeah. Also, if you feel, or like this is for all the attendees, if you feel that there are any topics you want to be covered, wanted to be covered for the design sprint, you can just drop related to design sprint or any other topics. You can just drop me an email on the same email address. So thank you everyone for your time, and hope this is very, very helpful to you. Feedback on it. Thank you so much.